Good morning, everyone. We're here for bar. It's a Thursday morning. And we're going to start on our feet. So you want to go ahead and find a ball or yoga block or small pillow for between the knees. A flex band is nice. Dumbbells are nice. And a countertop or bar that you can use for a balance assist. We're going to end on the mat on the ground. So just have that available. All right, so as you gather your things, I'm going to place my own bar and we'll come to standing. And actually, the first thing we're going to do, if you're already ready for that, is to walk through the feet. So I'm going to place my bar and we're all going to stroll through our feet for about a minute. Yeah, shifting the weight side to side, putting weight in one foot and then the other as we lift and lower alternate heels. There we go. And we're walking for maybe 20 more seconds. About 10. The breath is easy, and we feel the shift of the weight side to side. And after one more round of walking, we should have gotten a little bit of circulation down through the toes, the arches, the ankles. We're going to lower the heels and bend the knees pretty deeply, bending forward a little bit through the torso as well. So pull your hips back and just hang out here with your arms resting lightly. And we're going to do essentially an imprint and release motion as we exhale, stretching the low spine by rounding the tailbone under, trying not to pinch the glutes together because we want to stretch there as well. And then on the inhale, release the imprint or the rounded lower back. And here's a more definitive stretch between the sitting bones. Exhale and round under, right? Stretching through the outer surface of the low spine. And inhale, neutral, stretching across the base of the sitting bones, lengthening the pubic bones away from the heart. Do that one more time. And then go ahead with a neutral spine and bend deep into the legs. Inhale, feel your weight dropping towards your feet. And exhale, push off the ground as you round up through your height. Bring the feet and the knees together and put your hands low on the thighs, stretching your kneecaps. And we do a little bit of circling here. Very important that the inner surface of the knees are touching throughout all of it. So of course the circles aren't going to be huge. And the inner surface of the knees are stable against each other. Reverse that, please. And after one or two more rounds in the reverse direction, again, bend low into the knees. Smooth your hands over the kneecaps and exhale, straighten your legs as you draw your hands up the outer hips and thighs. We're going to put a little bit of neutral space between the feet and lift and lower the heels together or in tandem. Rising up on the inhale and lowering down on the exhale. We're also going to begin to add some core elements to the breath. So on your inhale breath, as you slide upward in space, the breath slides downward towards your pelvis. As you exhale and lower your heels, the breath rises upward. So we have this counterflow in the direction of the breath and the subtle movement of the body. I'd like you to go through 4 more repetitions. And then we'll add a little bit more to this, still focusing on the breath connection. We're in our last 2 repetitions. I know you can't see my head. It's still there. When you've lowered from that last exhale, inhale, bend deeply into the knees and feel a stretch building up the back of the ankle, down underneath the heel. Exhale, straighten the legs and feel stretch through the front of the hips. Inhale, rise up, pushing through the length of your foot and toes, and then exhale, lower down. Continuing here. Inhale, bend the knees, breath moving toward the pelvis, stretch across the sitting bones. Exhale, straighten the legs. Feel core support welling upward. Inhale, lift. Following that support, exhale, lower. Now I'm going to stop with a constant patter and we continue inhaling to begin. Exhaling the next phase of the movement. One breath per movement from here on. And lower. We have 3 more to do. Through the whole cycle, full regular breaths. Feel the organization around the pelvis through pelvic floor. The column of breath up through your spine. The stretch and grounding of the feet and the legs. And once more time through the whole cycle. After you lower the heels here, stand quietly over your legs, energized and warmed through the lower extremities. We have a couple rounds of breath where in stillness, we feel the inhale drawing down and the exhale moving upward as the stretch and groundedness continues through the legs and the feet. 2 more rounds here. On that last round of breath, feel how the head and the shoulders are balanced over the pelvis and the legs. And then bring your fingertips to your shoulder tops. Keep your elbows parallel to each other. And inhale, lift them up. Exhale, spread the elbows apart, unshrug the shoulders as you circle the elbows down. We do 4. Breathing in to begin, breathing out to finish. And as you do this, make little movements through the neck and the head. Not anything formal, but just to confirm that you're not locking out here. Once you've lowered the elbows the last time, we're going to inhale, bend the knees, and round the chest forward or inward as the elbows come forward. Exhale, straighten the legs, spreading across the chest as we connect across the shoulder blades. Do that 3 more times. Inhale, you can begin to allow the upper back to round. And exhale, you can add extension to the upper back if you're ready for it. 2 more times. And depending on the state of your spine this morning, how everything's feeling, you can deepen the curve to include the whole length of your spine, the extension as well. Now, drop the arms down by your sides. Inhale. And on the exhale, go into the deepest part of your plie, keeping your heels on the ground. We don't have the ball yet, and I acknowledge that. I want you to have your hands low on the thighs over the knees, and with the placement of your hands, guide the tracking of the knees into the shins and ankles. Last thing here, we do an exhale pulse downward. Feel the breath supporting length through the sides of the waist and stretch across the bottom of the hips. Inhale, push into your thighs lightly and come up a little bit. 4 times, exhale down, allowing the elbows to bend, the chest to open. Inhale up a little bit, releasing any pressure from the neck or shoulders. 2 more times. Tracking the knees, even without the benefit of the ball, just so we get some freedom in the hips. We don't want to lock those inner thighs. Last time. And then go ahead and stretch the legs, completing that action on the exhale. And stand on your left foot as you circle over the right toes. We're getting ready to put the ball between the inner thighs and to include a little bit more inner thigh work. Reverse that circling with the whole suite of movements that we do. Do the other side as well. And you'll notice that not only we're circling in the ankle, We're circling in the hip. We want to keep that warmth and sort of looseness in the hip as we now place a ball or prop of your choice between the inner thighs. As I said, a yoga block, even a tiny pillow works. We want the feet and legs to be the spacing of the hips. Now, you don't have to wear shoes. I'm wearing shoes because it's about 45 degrees. So as long as you're in something bendy, bare feet or not, you can do this. We have again a couple of preparatory breaths on the exhale, adding the inward sliding of the thigh bones as the adductors become active. Two more times, feeling the support under the bottom of pelvic floor as well as up in the pelvis proper. Last time, exhale, squeeze. And now listen, push into the toes, keep the squeeze, and inhale, lift your heels. Remain vertical through the spine as you exhale and bend the knees. The heels are released from ground. Inhale, place your heels down, bending forward, not collapsing the chest. And then exhale, stretch. One breath per movement. Inhale, rise. Exhale, squeeze the ball and bend, keeping the hips and the knees free in their movement. Inhale, plant the heels, and exhale, stretch. We have four more. Inhale, exhale, inhale, and exhale. Final three. Lightly carrying the head and the shoulders over top, the easiness in the upper ribs. As we engage core, most of the muscular work is really around the waist, into the bottom of the rib cage and down into the pelvis. And of course, because we're standing on our feet and our legs. Avoid tightening or gripping the chest and upper back in order to stabilize the neck or shoulders. We complete the final repetition and stretch to the top. Our heels are lifted, and we exhale here to add a squeeze to the ball. Heels remain lifted, and we inhale, bend the knees a little bit. Exhale, fully straighten the legs. Inhale, releasing downward, allowing the breath to drop into the belly, and then exhale, stretching it upward through the crown. As we also reach through our legs. We do 8. This one will be 3. Halfway through the set. Use the multiple repetitions to refine the movements and to really visit all of the muscles that are working to make it happen. 2 more. Last one. Now inhale, lower the heels. Exhale, rise. And inhale, bend the knees more deeply as you can go, keeping the heels lifted and keeping the spine upright or vertical, neutral. Do not tuck your butt under. As you exhale, squeeze the ball. We do that 4 times. Supporting the tracking of the knees without locking into either the knees or the hips. After you squeeze the 4th time, we want to stay in that activated position and then pulse downward. Exhale, lower the hips an inch. Inhale up a little bit. Do 8. Now, I'm not going to lie and say, oh, it's easy peasy if you breathe right. This will make your quads work. Don't let the work in the quads halfway through become stress for the knees. So muscles are here, joints are here. Clearly work the muscles in the thigh bones and in the calves without compressing or irritating the joints. One more. Inhale, lower your heels. Oh boy. Exhale, stretch the legs and put the ball off to the side. All right, so that should feel pretty good. We're going to take our right leg back and make lunge. Adjust the front leg so that when you bend it, the knee stacks pretty comfortably over the ankle rather than in front of the toes. And of course, you can add any width or length you need to make the right size lunge for you. Keep this forward angle with the torso and inhale, bend the back knee a little bit, and you'll feel a stretch building down through the lower calf muscles and heels. And then exhale, straighten the leg. We do that 2 more times, softening the quads and then feeling the quads like a long pair of tights. We exhale, straighten the knee and pull up those tights, pulling up the action of the quad muscles. One more. And then step forward. Right away, we do the other leg. Send your left foot back, adjust the length and width of your lunge, keeping the front knee tracking and safe, and hanging out here for just a little bit. Think about the angle of your tailbone. We don't want to wag our tail off to one side or the other. We're going to keep it like a plumb line traveling straight down under the base of our skull. Sides of the waist are long, the front of the pelvis and shoulders are square. Inhale, bend the back knee a little bit. And exhale, fully stretch the knee by drawing the length of your quads upward. And quads, 4 components, right? As the name suggests. Pay attention to the innermost one. That tends to be the one that we forget to use or have a relative weakness in. Once you straighten the legs the final time, bring that back leg forward and stand for a moment. All righty, we're going to go ahead and do the reverse motion of a lot of our 4-stage things, but we'll do it in a turned out or lateral position. Identify your pubic bones. In fact, let's do just the right one. I'll step forward so my hand's not invisible, and then find your trochanter. Hip is here to the right of the pubic bone. Trochanter is on the outside. When you rotate that right leg out to the side, the trochanter rolls to the back and the femur turns or rotates inside the hip. You can do that a couple of times until you feel a freedom of movement from the front of the hip to the trochanter and a connection from the trochanter under the bottom of your back hip. Try it out with the other side. It bears doing. Trochanter, hip, rolling outward, trochanter shifts. Rolling inside the hip with the femur still centered, the knee still tracking with the shins and ankle. And then finally do that in both directions, on both sides, and stand. Make sure that as you stand here, we don't have a hinge forward at the hip. So belly wall in, chest lifted, ribs in line with the pelvis, lots of space between pubic bone and breastbone. We'll inhale and bend the knees. Relax the ankles. Exhale, stretch the legs, feeling the line upward in the torso and downward into ground. And keep going here. Inhaling to bend and exhaling to stretch. We do this simple plie motion and add that awareness of both neutrality and uprightness through the spine in an easy way with balance rather than tension. Let's do 2 more, please. And then we'll add a little bit more with feet and ankles. 1 more, inhale, bend. And exhale, straighten. Inhale here. We're going to reverse the breath. Exhale, dropping right down to ground. Floating lightly up top, we inhale and lift the heels. And then exhale, stretch the legs, pulling up the quads, all four of them. Keep the legs stretched and inhale, lower the heels down. Exhale, bend the knees, and so forth. One breath per movement, inhaling, opening here, but also sitting bones wide. Exhale, stretch, and inhale, lower. Continue through your set of 6, please. And once you've gotten a chance to work out the alignment and the mechanics of the hips down into ground, knees and toes and ankles, check out how the spine is doing. We want the tailbone hanging like a plumb line rather than swaying side to side. Space in the front of the spine as well as the back. All of those neutral curves, not only present, but with lots of space in the individual elements. Lower this time, inhale, and now press up on the exhale, keeping the knees straight. Inhale down, exhale, press. Inhale down, and we're pressing with the toes. We're not pressing with our hips. So make a distinction there. With this next one, we're halfway through. Instead of bearing down from the hips, we feel a lightness in the hips and a stretch or pressure down through the first 2 toes. Of course, all 10 toes are on the ground. We have 2 more. And when you've done the last 2, let your heels come apart to the distance of the sitting bones and bring the toes inward into line, parallel. We're going to stand on the left leg, keeping the back of the hip and thigh awake, lifting the right foot from the ground. Now, right here, check the tailbone, check the pelvis and the shoulders. And on the exhale breath, bend your standing leg. Now we're going to stay upright. We're not lowering so far that we need to tilt forward. On the inhale breath, stretch. Exhale, bending standing leg, guiding but not bearing down, dropping weight into the foot, and then inhale, stretching. Please do 6 more, a total of 8. Look for the balance of the head and the shoulders over top, even if it feels a little wobbly. Keep the motion small and manageable and build into strength and range. And of course, just by virtue of doing 8, we're making stamina happen. 2 more. And 1 more. Straighten the standing leg, put the lifted foot down, and make a figure 4 with the leg that you were standing on. So our figure 4 stretch to put a little release into the outer hips. A lot go on in the outer hips, and in this case, probably a lot of stability work in parallel, right? The outside of the hip and the thigh plays a large role in preventing the hip from sort of winging out. Yeah. And then go ahead and stand. Put both feet on the ground. Breathe in and breathe out. We're going to return to being awake and active through the back of the thigh. And we're going to shift legs in a moment. Before moving on to that second leg, see if with your hands on your trochanters and maybe under the outer part of your glute muscles, I'll bend a little bit so you can see. See if in parallel you can trigger those muscles underneath the glutes. You'll have a slight outward opening or feeling in the front of the hips, but the legs stay parallel and you feel the knee truing up with the ankle and shins. Okay. Now, after that little awareness exercise, we're going to shift our weight to our right foot. Lifting our left leg, inhaling here, and finally on the exhale, bend the knee. Keep that connection under and below the hip. Inhale, stretch. We have our set of 8. It's not super exciting, but it is slow enough and simple enough that we can thoroughly work out the mechanics of all the muscles contributing. We're about halfway through with this one. Pay attention also to how your foot relates to the floor. All 5 toes on the ground, the heels centered, the arch lifted. We have probably 2 or 3 more repetitions. Exhaling to bend. Guide the knee toward the center of the foot without tightening the ankle. Last 2. Remember, each time you straighten the knee, you activate the quads upward. Last 1. And then put the lifted foot down and make figure 4 with the leg you were just standing on. A lot of leg and hip work today. Ooh, that side's tight. Okay, 2 more breaths. Move your head around. Unlock your shoulders. And come up and stand. All righty. So we're going to start to relate, as we did the other day, the inner thigh or the deep hip flexor to the lower abs. And so we're going to continue that theme, but in a lateral rotation. For some of us, that's a straighter shot into connection. So here we go. We're going to have a little bit of first position. We will stand on the left leg. I'll kick off my shoe. And we're going to bend the right knee, picking the foot up off the ground, and bring that foot in front of the ankle. Now, when the foot is there, point the toes and complete the chain from the hip through the knee, through the shin, through the toes. We're going to bend the standing leg a little bit, squaring off shoulders and hips. And then without tucking the pelvis under, exhale, feel the inner thigh of the lifted leg being pulled up through the space where the low abs rest. Inhale and lower down. So of course I'm talking about psoas. Some of you recognize that. We're going to try for 8, keeping the bend that you can support and align with your standing leg. We're 3 into it, feeling the muscle under the back of the thigh, lifting directly up over the pubic bones into the lower abs. Let's go ahead and do 4 more, not locking the hip, just exercising the connection down into the leg. 2 more. I've lost count. 1 more. Straighten standing leg. And put this foot down and put my shoe back on before I put it on the floor. Return to parallel, pull your hips back. Stretch in that spot under the base of the hip. And you can, of course, imprint and release or do any other spinal manipulation you want to do. When you're ready to roll up, push through your legs, breathe in and out, and complete that motion. Okay, so we'll go directly to the other side. We've got our laterally rotated position. I'm going to again kick off my shoe. And we're going to lift the left foot from the floor, bending the knee out to the side, right? So everything remains aligned. And when the ankle or the foot is in front of the ankle, we point the toes and complete the muscular support chain. Bend into your standing leg. We have 8 of these. Now, the squareness of the pelvis with the ribs, super important, because we're going to exhale and lift the top of the inner thigh. And that connection not only travels through the pelvis, but into the back of the rib cage and indeed onto the spine. up under the very top of the thigh. You should feel a lot of work going on. We have 4 more. If you're feeling really sassy and secure this morning, try and do this without hands on the bar and hold the balance in the shoulders and the pelvis. 2 more. And then straighten standing leg. Put your other foot down. Oh, come to parallel, and we bend again. And you should have felt pretty acutely under the back of that hip. Imprint and release if you like. Right. And then when you're ready, roll up through the spine. So we're going to take a brief little pause in the flow of things and do a plank against the wall or against the countertop or, against a low chair or the floor. You can do your plank wherever you like. We are going to turn it into push-ups. Yeah. So just be aware of that. Right. Don't overcommit, you guys. All right. So we have our neutral posture. We are aware of the back of the hips. Let's press into the first couple of toes and trigger the inner thighs as well. And on the course of an inhale and exhale, establish length up and down. Arms are in front of the shoulders. We lean forward into wherever we're going plank-wise. And we make sure that the head is floating lightly rather than straining to remain in place. Exhale here once, stretching evenly up and down. And then inhale, bend your elbows. When you bend your elbows, we want to avoid jutting the bottom of the ribs forward or collapsing inward through the top of the chest. That's a lot of conditions. Here we go. The long stretch from the sides of the waist into the sides of the hips and down into the legs is also present here. As you exhale, transversus muscle gathers into the sides of the waist, growing firmer and more stretched there lengthwise or top to bottom wise. We have 2 more exhales. And in particular, decompressing lower spine. We have 1 more exhale. We're going to take it into push-ups from here. When you're ready for that, inhale, bend your elbows a little further, feeling the chest open forward without losing the bottom of the ribs. And then exhale, press away. You will feel your triceps. Inhale, bend the elbows. Experience this as an opening across the shoulder tops and a release through the sides of the neck. And then exhale, straighten your arms. Work in the triceps as well as in the chest. Continuing through, I'd like you to do a set of 6 to 8. You can pick your number of repetitions. That was 3. Keep your Kegel as a grounding point for the inhale and as an ignition point for the exhale. The next one makes 5. Remind yourself to relax the ankles, but keep the arches. And 6. I'm going to go for 8 this morning. 7. And 8. Whew. Okay, push off of your wall, or if you're on the ground, you can push back and sit in a shell. Shake out your arms. So not only have we worked the arms, but we should have gained a real appreciation for balance in the shoulders and the carriage of the head. We're going to apply that to some work, bringing the leg behind the body. I'm going to check my clock here. Oh, good. Okay. And I think I'm going to turn on my space heater. Okay. So I'm going to face sideways to my bar just so you can see what I'm doing. But I suggest it, face in a square position to the bar so that you don't have any twisting or collapse in the ribs and shoulders. All right. So you're going to stand in a turned out position that is appropriate for your hips. I exaggerated here. With both hands on the bar, press down lightly, right? And feel that the weight of the shoulders actually slides downward toward the hips. We're going to start just by bringing the right leg back. So we're standing tall on our left leg. And without shifting anything else, we start to slide the outside of the right foot back until the heel lifts and maybe the toe points. Inhale, bring it forward. I'm going to have a little angle towards you. So we start to slide through the back of the thigh. We're thinking about that again, pulling the hamstring behind the pelvis, pointing through the ankle, and finally through the toes, and then reverse that. Okay, so we've got that. Let's do it 8 times. And it is a sequential articulation, both on the entrance into it and the return from that motion. Let's do 2 more, and we'll keep the last one. So I'll move a little forward. Take the leg to the back and engage through the length of your foot into your toes. Now, the pelvis should not be tipped forward, so our butt is behind or between the 2 legs, but our lower abs is picking the top of the pelvis up in front. We're going to keep that, and on an exhale breath, bend the standing leg and slide the leg that's in back of us. Inhale, come up a little bit. Don't straighten that leg. Exhale, bend, allowing the 2 hips to stretch apart. Up and exhale. Up and exhale. Up. We have 2 more, sliding. 1 more, sliding. Now, like we did before, we're steady through our standing leg, and we're going to use our glute. So up here, back of your bum, you can even touch it if you need to. And as we stretch this back leg, we're going to lift it up. 1. Inhale, lower. 2, and you should feel it right in your butt. 3, not in your back. 4, because we're pulling up the front of the pelvis. 5, stretch more. 6, and 7, and 8. Weight over the front leg, lower the back leg. Inhale, stretch, and exhale, return. Parallel, bend into your knees, and hang the upper body forward so your chest or belly drops towards your thighs. You can put your hands on something or just let the arms dangle. Jiggle out your shoulders a little bit. Move your head. Exhale and roll up. So we have just used the back of the hip, right? We were connecting through the front of the hip. Now we use the back of the hip and lateral. We're going to do the second side right off the bat. So let's go ahead and turn and do that, right? That first position. I'm going to change my camera a little bit. And we'll go through the whole little sequence here. So here I've lifted the camera so you can see my pelvis. We're standing in first position. Inhale, taking the breath downward, and then exhale, begin to stretch the left leg or new side backward, pointing through the ankle and eventually through the toes. Inhale, forward. We do 8. As you take the leg back, lower abs need to work more to keep the pelvis from tilting or collapsing forward to the front leg. Now, as you do that, ideally, we're keeping our weight over our front leg as well. And that becomes increasingly important with the evolution of the exercise. This whole back chain of the leg is working each time that leg goes behind the pelvis. And the hip flexor in front gets a stretch so long as we're pulling up the lower abs. 2 more. Now, the last time you take the leg back, keep it. And I did promise this would be more of a leg day. So pelvis is upright. We bend into the standing leg and prepare to pulse downward. On the exhale, pulse downward, stretching more through the hip flexor. Inhale up, pulse downward, requiring more of the abs. And down halfway through. Remember to track standing leg. 2 more. Relax your ankle and spread your foot against the ground. Hold the last position downward. Pelvis is lifted. We use our bum and exhale, stretch the leg, lift it 1. Inhale, 2, 3, 4. Squeeze your glute, not your back. 5. Stretch the leg, use your quads. 6, 7, point your foot, connect through the calf. And 8, straighten standing leg, upright on it, right? You're balanced. And then bring the leg forward, parallel, bend into the knees. Shake it out. Nod your head, yes. And when you're ready, roll up through the spine. All right. Checking my clock here. We're almost to the mat. And we'll do a little bit more shoulder work on the mat. Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to lift my camera a little bit so you can see that I'm upright, and I'll shift it as we go. Please find a turned out position, and you can have your hands on your barre. In fact, I'll go around behind and back so you get a little bit more of the legs. Okay. Look down at the feet, establish the direction that the toes, the femurs, the knees are all pointing. And we're going to take the leg out to the side into the point of the toe. And inhale, bring it back in. Inner thigh. We've added an element. Out to the side and inner thigh. Balanced in the stretch of the front and the connection across the back. We do this 4 more times. And as we balance over our standing leg, maybe you find the ability to release the barre and take the head and shoulders lightly over the pelvis. 2 more. In this case, we close from the last one. Exhale, plie, inhale, stretch, and prepare for the other side. Okay. Balance through the front and the back without any pressure into the low back, and with good support for the low abs, begin to stretch to the side. And then close on an exhale, inner thighs coming together, briefly balancing over 2 feet. Inhale and exhale. Keep your head over your chest and your chest over your pelvis without jetting the bottom ribs or collapsing the sternum. Shoulders are open without being lifted or depressed. Two more, I'm guessing. I need an official counter. One more. Here, in first position. Return to parallel, and we are going to get our mats out and move to the floor and look at some prone work. So you can pull back, right? You can do what you need to do. Then you want to make space for yourself to lie down. So sometimes we focus more on legs and arm, and sometimes more on arms. This is definitely more a lower extremity workout, but here we're going to start to add the relationship of the shoulders to it. We lie on our belly once you get your mat out and you're situated. Go ahead and have your flex band nearby, by the way. And we're going to start with parallel legs as we lie on our belly and just breathe to get situated. And we're going to look at the hip extensors in parallel. Okay. So we're lying face down. Make the upper body comfortable, whether you're resting your head on your hands or on a pillow. And we want to also make sure that the pubic bones are settling forward into ground. As you do that kind of settling, you can scoot your legs away a little bit and put some space into the low back. Front of the pelvis, from the top to the bottom at the pubic bones, resting comfortably into ground. Legs together or as close as they come, and the outer line of the hips stretched from the waist down. Take a breath and moving both legs together. On the exhale, use both sets of glutes and lift the back of the thighs. We'll lower on the inhale, stretching more behind the knees as we pull up the quads in front, and exhale, lift the legs. Inhale, lower. We're going to do a set of 5, so we have 3 more here. Try not to press with your elbows or forehead. Remember to point your toes. And do the last one, resolving to keep the knees straight, the quads supporting you. And then rest down. Okay. Bring the arms down along your sides if they're not already there. Keep the legs engaged here. And just a couple of times, lift and lower the shoulders up off the surface of the ribs and down. And then forward and back a couple of times. Feel the comfortable carriage of the shoulder assembly on the ribs. And on an inhale, make sure the arms are lifted along your sides and lined up. On an exhale, breaststroke prep number 2, gliding the shoulder blades down. We keep the spine long and close the distance between the shoulder blades and pelvis. Hold for inhale and exhale to lower. Please do 3 more. Inhale, lifting the shoulder or the arms, placing the shoulders. Exhale, spine reaches even longer as the shoulder blades move down the surface of the back of your torso. Exhale, lower. Now the legs are reaching longer as well. So as you do your last 2, feel that length from the sides of the waist down into the sides of the hips. And you'll find your glutes, your low abs, and inner thighs and pelvic floor. Wow, there's a whole lot going on. 1 more. Place and stretch. Hold and lower. All right, bring your hands up near your forehead, rest for a moment. And all of this was an attempt to get us set up for a complete spinal extension. Yeah. Breathing in here, you can start to shuffle the legs further apart to maybe the outer edges or the width of your mat. And laterally rotate those legs. We've done a lot of work warming up and identifying the rotators. Feel the inner thighs rotating forward. Stretch the knees and feel the muscles under the back of your hips. Now we're going to lift the legs here, both at the same time. So you can, again, have whatever position is comfortable for your spine and shoulders. And know, even more than the last time, we're going to use our low abs and our glutes. Point the toes. Inhale, use your Kegel. Then exhale, stretch from your center point through your ends and lift the legs up using your glutes, not your low back. Inhale and lower. Continue, this time only through a set of 4. Exhale, lift. Inhale and lower. Feel how you can take the legs behind the pelvis, stretching the front of the hips, using the glutes, and then lower. Okay, relax your legs. You can let them go parallel. So we're working into spinal extension now. The legs will stay on the ground. Just realized I didn't change my camera, so I'm sorry for that. The legs will stay on the ground. And this time, instead of taking them up behind the pelvis, we're going to lift the pelvis up through the legs. I'll give you a decent view this time. All right, so re-engage in the lateral rotation. Bring your hands up near your shoulders in breaststroke prep number 1 position. Stretch the legs, point the toes, and have an honest breath in your neutral spine, releasing stretch down through the back and sides of the hips. Inhale. Exhale, slide the shoulder blades as you lengthen the space between the vertebrae and come up to the bottom of the ribs. Inhale here. And now exhale, begin to push through your triceps like you're doing a push-up as you extend down through the lower part of the spine and the hips. Pelvis is lifted, glutes are working, legs are stretching. Inhale, exhale, and lower. Continuing, prepare. And then exhale. You can stage it through breaststroke prep number 1 if you like. Make sure the middle back muscles are working. Restretch the legs and extend all the way upward. Feel the front of the body opening and feel the shoulders and the arms working. Inhale, exhale, and lower. We have one more to do. Prepare. And in your own way, on your own timing, make your way into your full extension. Lifting the pelvis up. That's a low ab action. Hip flexor stretch. Back of the thighs and legs work. Beautiful. When you've lowered down, please sit back into shell. Take your time. We've been in extension for a long time. So ease back. And breathe. Now we are going to do a brief stretch with the flex band as we lie on our back. So that should feel nice for the back of the hips and the thighs. When you're ready to roll up and move on, go ahead and use your hands to help stack your spine and make your way slowly but efficiently down to lie on your back with your flex band handy. You can also do this with a length of fabric, whether it's a pair of pants or stockings or even a towel. Pad under the back of your head and maybe even a little under the back of the shoulders to make the upper back comfortable. Yeah, so whatever you need to do in that regard is important. Have a couple of breaths in and out, no other prop. Feeling a settling and a softening. And then exhale and make an imprint, please. Lift one of your feet from the ground, making tabletop. And loop your flex band or length of fabric around the sole of the foot. I'd like you to keep this leg in a parallel alignment. So from that hip down through inner thigh, knee, and ankle, everything is lined up as though it's on a wall. On an exhale breath, as you guide with your flex band, you're going to begin to stretch the knee using the quads in the front of the thigh, pulling them up like a pair of stockings as you lengthen behind the knee and feel stretch in the bottom of the hamstrings. Release gently as you inhale. This is not ballistic stretching, so please don't pulse it. And exhale, reach into length. We do this 2 more times. Stretching from the middle of the hamstrings downward gently toward the back of the knee. Don't go into any numbing or sharp sensation, nothing electrical. And when you've straightened the leg this final time, go ahead and keep it straight. Check that the shoulders are square and supported. And as you reach through the length of your knee, now exhale, contract through your abs and guide the thigh bone closer to your torso. Now, here the stretch is going to go more up under the top fibers of the hamstrings into the back of the hip. We do 4 of these guys as well. And because you're imprinted, also feel an opening in the length of your lower back, maybe even the bottom of the ribs downward. When you've done your final one, gently release that leg from the flex band, return the foot to the floor, and settle for a moment. We will go directly into the other side. Release to neutral posture, the foot is down, we prepare, and exhale, imprint, refreshing that for the other side. And when you've got that imprint, lift the second leg up, arrange the flex band or loop of fabric, whatever you're using, and make sure that you have parallel 4 times as you guide. We're going to exhale and straighten the knee or move towards straightening. Releasing a little bit on your inhale and refreshing the stretch on exhale. We're using that subtle contraction of the quads to stretch the hamstrings. It's called activated isolating stretching. So when we stretch a joint, we don't leave it vulnerable or unsupported. Once you straighten the leg the last time, we begin to move the thigh bone closer to the torso. And that you should theoretically be able to do even without the flex band because we're pulling the thigh in with our hip flexor, returning to that connection. And when you've done your 4th one of these, put the flex band off to the side and hug both knees into your chest. I'm not going to keep you late, but I do want you to feel the even stretch of the back of the hips and the thighs. You're still imprinted. And then on an exhale, the legs together, push up toward the ceiling, stretching but not necessarily straightening behind the knees. Let the weight of the upper back, the head rest, relax your jaw. And as you push your feet toward the ceiling, feel the pelvis settling into ground. The length of your spine stretches through the mat, and you take 3 honest breaths. When you've done that, gently bend your knees, and of course, include any other stretch of your choice. The formal class is done. I'd like you to take your time as you ease out of this workout. That was very much focused on the lower extremities. Roll your shoulders around a couple times too. We did use those, especially in our extensions. And then get up slowly and carefully. Drink your water. I'll see you guys later. I'm going to turn off the recording and let you attend to the rest of your day. Good to see your faces, and we'll see you next time. Bye bye.